Now, a lot of people want confidence without the skill, without the competence, right? And it is critical that if we want to play in domains where we are confronted with complexity, affronting types of resistance, stuff that makes us intimidated, afraid, insecure, it is critical that we start to understand to what extent we can master skills within that domain, because something magical happens once we just get better at the stuff that happens in that place. Confidence improves. Now, over the years, I don't know how many times I've been asked from students and clients about the fear problem, right? And generally speaking, more from martial arts than otherwise, but it's a common problem. People feel fear when they fight, right? On the one hand, I would say this: good. There's a reason your body has that stress response. It is built to keep you alive. Now, it should never dominate your interaction. So most fighters, not all, some of them do transcend fully, but most fighters play in that domain where the fear doesn't go away. You listen to some of the Georges St-Pierre talks when he's been in fights, and he will tell you before he fought somebody, or even during the fight, he's literally said he's been terrified. This is a guy that is in an elite level unto himself, and possibly one of the greatest of all time within mixed martial arts, right? And he's telling us point blank, I was scared to death fighting that guy. And he won the fight. So the first thing that's a reasonable question for us is, do we actually need to transcend fear to be of any use in this game? And I would argue, for most of us, we probably don't need to transcend it fully, but learn to live with it, utilize it, and make sure that it's what empowers us and keeps us sharp, instead of suppresses us and floods the body with the wrong types of hormones. But on that other side, the transcendence. Look, I have had times, I wouldn't say that I'm there now, but I've had times in my prior training where I would say I got to points of fearlessness. And I have worked with guys and coaches and masters around the world who I think I could credibly say that they probably did not have a lot of fear. And they fit into one or two of these camps. Now, the first one, are you training in a way that exposes you to the realities of that situation, where you are constantly exposed to the stresses, and you are cultivating tools that help you dominate in that realm? For most people, if you have an issue around fear in that game, you aren't putting in the work. Baseline, you're not putting in the work. If you're sparring once a week or once a month or once every 2 weeks, and you're only training 2 to 3 days a week in your craft, you are not in the game. There is nothing that has more depth, more complexity, more terrifying moments than a self-defense or a full contact type of encounter. This is as bad as it gets. We might find domains that are terrifying in other ways. We might have financial issues, relationship issues, but none of them threaten every part of your being, your mind, your body, everything in a single moment like self-defense does. Nothing is harder. And so, if the problem is fear, if you're afraid to fight, and if you're intimidated by people, go after that shit. One of the things that I used to do, this was a long time ago now, and I don't fight as much as I used to, and in fact, very, very little at all in recent years. But a while back, I told myself that I came to this realization for myself, and I said, look, I'm not getting any better by avoiding what this game is about, and if I want to play in this domain, I gotta face the fire. So I told myself this one thing. Every time that we had a sparring session, and when I was in university and around that time, it was where a lot of the kind of extremely intense fighting training happened, literally fighting, kind of no rules stuff for a while. I told myself, you pick the biggest, baddest dude you can every single chance. A lot of times we get the choice to select who we want to work with and fight. Didn't matter. The most intimidating guy I picked first every single time. And I made that commitment to myself, and I faced it. And after a while, I started to learn that game. And look, I took shots and I got hurt and I got hit, and that is absolutely part of the game. But if you keep your eyes open, if you try to mitigate as much risk as possible, you're doing your foundational training and honing those skills, things open up. You start to see beyond that fear, and it becomes something that allows you to perform better and not something that holds you back down. But it needs to be faced and attacked head on. If you avoid it, it will eat you up. Now to meditation. Now this is not really embraced by a lot of hardcore martial artists, but it should be. Meditation is one of the most important human activities, and we could look at it from two angles. One, from the practice, which may be a little bit of quality moments of presence with a whole bunch of other thoughts about girlfriends and food and whatever shit pops into your brain. And then we might look at the actual moment of experience. Now, it does something critical. I'll analyze some of the benefits in a variety of ways in other videos, but for a martial artist or for somebody looking to address the fear problem, it does something super, super important. So what happens over a lifetime of experience is we start to compound our experiences. We have an experience, we have an emotional state, and these form neurological bonds in the brain that allow us to create a framework that helps us interpret and understand our experience. Now, there are so many of these within the mind, within the body, that we can't calculate them, but there are frameworks for them. And so what happens is we start to understand and comprehend our world based on the types of understanding, information, emotional states, and these form networks of experience. And they're emotionally charged. So if you start to have those fear responses, and if you're in situations that remind you of that time you got beat up when you were 12, and that fight that you had with your father where things got too aggressive, and these types of thoughts start to pop up, then you better believe that these experiences are hardwired into you. This is actually how the brain and the body work. We form stronger neurological bonds that are almost like concrete pathways that allow us to become more effective and more efficient at the things that we've done. But they don't allow us to adapt very easily if we form these strong bonds, or to find opportunity and insight in this moment. And for a martial artist, one of the worst things that you can be is stuck in the past. One of the most empowering states you can be is free, totally free of all your baggage, and that includes fear, right? What is fear? It's anticipation of what we don't know and the possible negative consequences. But if you don't have any attachment to the future, if you don't have any attachment to what you've thought before, to the potential consequences, fear is no longer in the game, right? So there is a direct relationship between your ability to non-attach, to dissociate, to non-judge the events in your life, the potential for risk in the future, and allow you to engage in something that is wholly present, full on, without any expectations, pure focus. Meditation is that tool. It's absolutely critical for martial artists, and it is one of the two ways that has always been tried, tested, and true for martial artists and for, I think, anybody trying to overcome fear. So guys, fun topics. If you got any questions, if you got any comments, leave them in the comments. There's a weird arrow direction. My apologies. Yeah, and until the next time, look, please like, subscribe, notify everybody in your life that matters to you, share the video. And until the next time, be weightless.